Gentlemen, stop your engines.
Well, as I walk out of the nerve centre here at Warnerton of the European Late Model Series, we welcome you back to this brilliant 3/8 mile oval here in Belgium. Now, in the last programme, we saw the cars and the drivers take their very first visit to the UK, one of 3 visits they're going to make this year, and it was over to the wide open spaces of Lydden Hill. Now, they weren't using the whole of the Lydden Hill circuit, an oval specially designed for them to use, and those wide open spaces, well, worked for some, didn't work for others. To be honest, right at the top of the points chart, Gary Ellis and Xavier Van der Meers had an absolute nightmare. But whilst they were having a nightmare, it was this guy, the 2007 champion 07, Jean Vasseur, that took advantage of that. 3 races and took 2 victories out of those 3. Well, we're back to the home and we'll see what happens today as once again we go European Late Model Series racing.
Green. Indeed we do, with the green down then, and it's Colin White alongside Paul Bowman, the 2 former stockcars right at the front of this grid. Colin White in the 78 car, the bluey colour, and Paul Bowman, driver number 39 on his inside. Well, not anymore, because Colin White has already put himself straight into the lead. Colin has got quite a bit of experience of this Warnerton Speedway. He's been round here not only in that car before, but also in his hot rods too. Bertrand Zor then in car number 71, making very good progress around car number 39 as well. And there we can hear our race director telling various drivers to keep inside. So Bertrand Zor it is then in car number 71, 22 is right behind him, but there is our race leader. It's car number 78, Colin White. So it's a Franco-Dutch battle there between Wim Moonen in the all-yellow 73 car and Vincent Lehoux to his outside in the orange-white machine. Wim Moonen appears to have the battle. He's got the inside line, of course. One of the features of this Warnerton Speedway, you may have seen Colin White's bus parked up in the middle, the paddock very much in the middle of the racetrack here. And that's where, of course, all the race teams enjoy the scintillating action of European late model racing here at the Warnerton Speedway. So car 17 then, Bruce Andrews very much in the mix for this, and he's being hounded now by Kelvin Hassel.
39, stay inside, the leader is coming. 39,
once again, our race director telling car number 39 to keep to the inside to allow room for these guys to overtake. Look at this from Kelvin Hassel. Now Kelvin is driving the number 13 car with the black body and orange roof. As once again we cut back to our race leader, number 78, Colin White. Colin White now being hounded by Anton Gonnerson and Kelvin Hassel coming into that, as well as Bruce Andrews too. All of them taking the outside line and getting past the back marking cars. Now toned to the bone, one of the Raptor racing drivers, Anton Gonnerson, really is on the back bumper of 78 Colin White now. Oh, and there we see the familiar yellow and red with the unfamiliar white front of car number 95, Gary Ellis. The reason for the white front, well, Gary and his team have worked all night following a damaging Lydden Hill outing, and to get back out on track here at Warnerton Speedway today, travelled through the night and worked through the night to get that car back on track. So well done to Gary and his team. Gary in turn being hounded by 07 Jean Vasseur. But here we go now with Kelvin Hassel, putting some pressure on Anton Gonnerson, toned to the bone, the Raptor racing driver, being hounded now by Kelvin Hassel. Interesting there, because Anton Gonnerson, one of the well-funded drivers in this series, runs a fleet of very, very nice road cars, and he is being pursued by Kelvin Hassel, who really struggles for each and every penny to go racing, to the point where he actually sleeps in the garage alongside his car. There couldn't be a more mixed comparison between these 2 drivers, and they are absolutely side by side. Kelvin Hassel on the outside, car number 13, toned to the bone, Anton Gonnerson on the inside. And at the moment, you have to say that Kelvin sleeping in the garage appears to give him just a little bit of an edge, because he's got past him. Or has he? Anton Gunnarsson fights back. But Kelvin Hassel, what a brilliant drive. A clean, superb drive around the outside. Gets the better of Anton Gunnarsson.
5 laps to go, gentlemen. 5 laps.
So 5 laps remain in this, here at Warnerton Speedway, the European Late Model Series racing. And Kelvin Hassel in car number 13 it is that's leading the way, the black car with the orange roof. And then we see Anton Gunnarsson, then it's Bruce Andrews and Gary Ellis once again just coming into shot there. But Kelvin Hassel is on an absolute charge in this heat. In the earlier programmes in the European Late Model Series, we've seen just how Kelvin has suffered the fate of bad luck, but now he's got it all together. Kelvin Hassel, then it's Anton Gunnarsson, then it's Bruce Andrews, and then we see Gary Ellis and Jean Vasseur there battling through, and then the earlier leader, 78, Colin White. So just 3 laps remain in this heat here at the Warnerton Speedway for the European Late Model Series. And it's fraught for positions 6, 7, 8 and 9 there. We see Colin White, we see Wim Moonen. But right at the front it is Kelvin Hassel, who really has cut a dash through the entire field here at Warnerton. So we're on to our last lap, our last 3/8 mile around here for this Heat 1, and it is Kelvin Hassel that's going to take the checkered flag. Oh, as Wim Moonen spins right in the end of this race, Wim Moonen turns it around, checkers go out, that race declared, and one of our racers indeed waving the flags. But there is Kelvin Hassel, our race victor. There was the earlier leader, 78, Colin White.
So the number change, Kelvin, we thought it was going to work. Today, the proof of the pudding. A superb race. The dice between you and Anton Gunnarsson, where you were side by side for lap after lap after lap. Each of you must have so much respect for each other for you to be able to race like that.
No, he's a horrible bloke, he is.
But a fine victory. You worked your way through. Just tenacious. You were there when you needed to go for a gap. You went for it.
Yeah, I was racing at Lydden yesterday and I didn't go, so I was well up for it today. And yeah, the traffic fell my way a bit, and I'm really good, aren't I?
Well, there's no question about that. You are, Kelvin, as you take the win. Second place, Anton Gunnarsson. Third, Bruce Andrews. Fourth was Gary Ellis. Jean Vasseur, fifth. And Colin White, sixth place, with Josh Janssen, seventh. And Kurt Dujardin, eighth place.
Now, on any given race day here at the Warnerton Speedway, it's not just the European Late Model Series racing that you can expect, but things like bangers, banger stocks, privy cars, super privy cars, and these, an old favourite of mine, the lightning rods. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to European Late Model Series racing here at the Warnerton Speedway. Now I'm just checking out this lightning rod. Brings back great memories of my racing career. That's the dents, I'm afraid, as opposed to the trophy.
Keep the same speed.
So once again we have the greens by Christoph van der Kerkhoff, part-time, sub-time racer in this European Late Model Series. In fact, he's a damn good driver. And it's Colin White once again, along with Paul Bowman right at the front of the grid, and Colin White speeds off into the lead. And there we see Colin White in the car number 78, Paul Bowman behind him. Then we see Vincent Lehoc as the cars come rattling through, and the all-star battle at the back between Jean Vasseur and Gary Ellis. And these two hire cars, the white and red cars from the Roots V8 Racing School, well, you can be out there racing for just a little less than €1,000 per event. What a bargain. We're on board with Gary Ellis to see what it's like from a driver's eye perspective to propel one of these powerful V8 monsters around this raceway. And Gary Ellis and Jean Vasseur with a touch together. It was nothing more than a kiss, but at these speeds it was enough to send Jean Vasseur around. Let's see how it happened. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other from my eyes perspective there, but Jean Vasseur then it was that got turned around.
Green, 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 green.
And again, Van der Kerkhoff sends them away. And now Colin White has trebled to Josh Janssen right alongside him, and Josh Janssen it is that goes straight into the lead. Another one of the Raptor Racing drivers. The all-black machines of the Raptor Racing team being represented there right at the front by Josh Janssen, with Colin White in a hot pursuit as once again we go on board with Gary Ellis, who's up the inside of Bertrand Zor. Gary Ellis had a disaster yesterday at Lydden Hill, which caused so much work to be done. And here Tony Roots and Jean Vasseur and also Vincent Leharc all battling, and Tony Roots gets on the corner of Jean Vasseur.
07. It's the second time in 3 laps. So 07 to the pits, please.
Oh, and 07 being punished for that. And as you can see, he cut in onto Tony Roots. Tony had got absolutely nowhere to go. And around Jean Vasseur goes. And, well, he's being dealt with by the rod of iron holding race director that he is, Roland van der Meers. So once again, we are ready to get this race restarted. Green. We have the greens. It's been full of incident and action already. And this huge pack go rattling through. And it's Colin White once again and Josh Janssen right at the front. And this time Jos hasn't got the bounce. Yes, he has. Into the lead he goes. Colin White on the outside line does his level best to keep on terms with him. We've got Vincent Leharc in the orange car, and also, look at that, there's almost a Raptor Racing sandwich there between Anton Gonnersen and Kurt Dujardin. The other 2 Raptor Racing drivers in treble 2 and 22. What a finish that would be.
66.
So 66 being reprimanded also. So it is Josh Janssen then that's leading the way, and Vincent Leharc now coming under some pressure from the Raptor Racing drivers of Kurt Dujardin and Anton Gonnersen. Those are the matte black cars that are currently 4th and 5th. And already Gary Ellis is up there into that pack. As we see 71 Bertrand Zor retire, he's out into the paddock. Winston Graham there with some smoke coming off his car. So it's Josh Janssen from the Raptor Racing team that is leading then. The 3 Raptor Racing cars that are out there. 77 Tony Roots in the all-green machine. As one of those Raptor Racing cars hits the wall. That's Anton Gonnersen, toned to the bone. Toned to the wall at that point, my goodness me. It's such a charged battle for the places at the moment back there.
Number 5, keep your line. Stay inside, 5 and 34. Stay inside, go racing, but stay.
So 5 and 34 being told to stay inside. Black flags being administered there by race starter Christoph van der Kerkhoff. But it is a thrilling end to this race that has been packed with incident and packed with drama, and Gary Ellis doing everything he can to get into the places. In car number 95, the yellow and red machine with the white front. That is Gary Ellis.
1 lap to go, 1 lap to go, 34.
So we're into the final lap now of this heat here at Warnerton Speedway for the European late models, and it is a real charge to the flag then for everyone desperately trying to get on terms and get places. But here is our winner, Josh Janssen from the Raptor Racing team. Wow, what a finish, and my goodness me, very nearly a whole car park there as everyone comes to a slow down. So our race winner then, Josh Janssen in treble 2. Second was Anton Gonnersen, so Raptor Racing block out the first 2 places on the podium with Gary Ellis 3rd, Tony Roots 4th and Kelvin Hassel in 5th. So live from the podium, the Start Marshals podium here at the Warnerton Speedway, we're about to get the feature final for the European late models underway. The warm-up laps have been done and dusted, and the drivers are just being seated into their right positions on the grid, and then we're going to go racing. So green we go then for the feature final for these European late models as Christoph van der Kerkhoff greens them away. So one of the higher cars right at the front of the grid, that's driver number 5, Eric Schmidt. Alongside him, Paul Bowman in one of the former ASCAR cars. And already Bruce Andrews on terms with them. There's Tony Roots, there's Xavier van der Meers. Xavier being very quiet by his own standards during Heat 1 and Heat 2. Will he do it all in the final? Time will tell as we're on board with Gary Ellis. And funnily enough, Xavier van der Meers is the very car we're following, that blue and white machine that's in front of Gary Ellis. And Paul Bowman goes round in car number 39 in a really dodgy position, which means every other driver has to take cover. And here once again we can see Paul Bowman, he just overcooks it into that bend and gets it into a slide that cannot be controlled. Let's go green once again. We're racing in the feature final here at the Warnerton Speedway. We're on board with Gary Ellis as he propels this monster V8 machine around this speedway. And this is the one that every driver wants to win. It is the feature final, which is currently being led by car number 17, Bruce Andrews. So back on board we go with Gary Ellis. Number 5 is Eric Schmidt. He's one of the guys that's hired a car to come out and go racing for less than €1,000 a meeting. What a bargain. But look at this, the veteran Bruce Andrews in car number 17 it is that's leading the way. Behind him we can see Bertrand Zor. Kelvin Hassel is right in front of us as we travel on board with Gary Ellis. Kelvin Hassel has already had a win today. He would dearly love to take the final as they battle their way through. Gary Ellis is on an absolute charge as he gets alongside the car number 22 of the Raptor Racing team. Dives outside. This is fraught and frantic stuff in this feature final. So Bruce Andrews then in car number 17, one of the prettiest cars out there. Tony Roots having a good time of it in car number 77 as well. And we're back on board with Gary Ellis. So we've got Kelvin Hassel on the outside trying to get past Xavier Vandermeer. Xavier, who very much likes to showboat and get his car sideways, but he's not doing that at the moment. He's keeping it very tight inside because he knows that Kelvin Hassel is trying to get past, and indeed he does. And Gary Ellis follows suit as well. Xavier Vandermeer having a very off day today here at Warnerton Speedway. So it's Kelvin Hassel who's right in front of us as we ride on board with Gary Ellis in car number 95. You can see his bonnet flapping in front of us. There's Tony Roots at 77, then it's Wim Moonen. And Jean Vasseur with a bit of panel damage there. Looks like his door panel is hanging off. We try to dive up the inside of Wim Moonen as we go back on board with Gary Ellis. We weren't quite close enough and Gary has to lift off to avoid putting Wim into a spin. Oh, and as we mentioned that, Xavier Vandermeer does go into a spin. And that was quite a collision into that wall. Looks like the side of that car is really down, and this is how it happened. An absolute knock into the corner from one of the Raptor Racing drivers, and that put him straight into the concrete wall. So Xavier Vandermeer, good to see him getting out of the car relatively unscathed. Just holds his head. I suspect at the amount of work that he's going to have to do to put that car back out on the track again.
Well, an absolutely monumental crash for Xavier Vandermeer. Thankfully he's out of the car, and apart from being very, very shaken, he looks okay, which is more than can be said for his car.
So we go green once again as this feature final resumes with Bruce Andrews right at the front of the pack driving that Chevrolet, the all-orange number 17 car. And it is Bruce Andrews. We go back on board with car number 95, Gary Ellis, who's really into the chase now. Gary Ellis, and we've got Tony Roots' Ford right in front, the all-green 77 machine. So it's a real battle here between Bruce Andrews, Tony Roots trying to get alongside him, Gary Ellis hounding the both of them at the moment. So it's orange, it's green, it's yellow, it's every colour under the rainbow as we go racing in the European Late Model Series. Full of colour, full of spectacle, but it's Gary Ellis who's taken to the outside to try and get alongside and get past Tony Roots in car number 77, who's right in front of him. It's Bruce Andrews that's leading the way though in car number 17, the veteran driver who's had experience of NASCAR racing, actually comes from Florida, lives and breathes this racing, as indeed does Tony Roots, who's right behind him, and Tony's taken to the outside now. Will Gary dive up the in? Yes, he's going to. Tony shuts the door. Gary tries hard once again. They are absolutely neck and neck. This is the fight for 1, 2, 3. Places 1, 2 and 3 with Jean Vasseur coming into the mix as well. Bertrand Zor going through. And these two cars that have been hired for the racing today. So we're right on the French-Belgian border here at the Warnerton Speedway. It's the closest you'll get to real NASCAR racing in Europe. And it is so exciting as Gary Ellis is still trying so hard. Oh, and he gets it very sideways, but manages to dial it back in. Car number 22 takes advantage of that and nips up the inside. And Gary is back on his charge again. It's Bruce Andrews leading in the orange car that we can see in front. Then it is Tony Roots. Back-marking cars being blue flagged to get out of the way. The faster race leaders are coming through. Gary Ellis very soon will have Jean Vasseur right on his back bumper as well. Jean Vasseur, of course, the fastest frog out there, the 2007 champion. Absolutely amazing stuff. Now Gary Ellis has got the back marking Paul Bowman on the inside, but it's Bruce Andrews that he's got to get past. He dives up the outside. And Gary Ellis knows this place better than anybody else, and he's making that wide outside line up high across the white line stick. Well done, Gary Ellis. He's into the lead now in this feature final here at Warnerton Speedway. And after the work that he's had to do and his team have had to do to get that car back out on track following a disastrous Lydden hill, he is doing supremely well. Car number 95 then it is that's leading this feature final. The yellow-red with the white front machine of Gary Ellis then in car number 95. Jean Vasseur now is through into second place, and there the rest of the placemen coming through. Now if Vasseur manages to take a podium, that could propel him into the lead of the championship. Gary will be well aware of that. He's a real tactician. His brain will be working, adding up those figures as we have just one lap left to run. And look at the lead Gary Ellis has built up over Jean Vasseur. Absolutely incredible stuff. This European late model final here at the Warnerton Speedway has been brought. And there the checkered flag for Gary Ellis then. Then we see Jean Vasseur and Kurt Dujardin. So there is our race winner, Gary Ellis. And the results then, Gary Ellis takes first place, second Kurt Dujardin, who's been propelled in front of Jean Vasseur, who got put back a place for an earlier indiscretion. Bruce Andrews fourth, Anton Gonnerson fifth.
Well, after a weekend of frenetic race activity that's seen a couple of countries involved, Gary, I think for all the work and all the work your team put in, that feature final win was a just result.
Yes, yeah, it's a real good result. The help that Garrett gave me and everybody else last night to put the car back together. Yeah, come good in the end for everybody.
Absolutely unbelievable when we saw that car in the tyre wall that, in the space of actually just a few hours, it's back to that race-winning machine.
Yeah, well, luckily all it was in the tyre wall was panel work and the radiator, obviously. There's still a little bit of damage to it, but it was something I could get over for today.
And I guess, Gary, that's some testament to the strength of these cars and the economy of the racing, because actually what looks to the average Joe like me, huge damage, actually it's only a bit of panel work and that can be sorted.
Yeah, well the only new parts that went on that car was the front nose, because the other one was too far gone, and a little bit of steel work that holds the nose up. Obviously the hood's the same, but it is past itself by date, but it is repairable.
Do you know, if Garrett was worth his salt, he'd have painted that nose cone, Gary, wouldn't he? You'd just have a word. Well done to you all.
All right, thank you.
Always looking as cool as a cucumber with his shades on and not hardly a bead of sweat down the forehead, Kurt Dujardin, at 74 years of age. How can you still look so good after taking a podium in that race?
73, that's the first thing. Second thing is I never sweat.
That was an incredible race, and just in the final stages, Kurt, it really looked, you were on terms with Jean, and I thought, hang on, you're going to get second here. Is
yes,
that how
I saw his tires, who were not good at all, and I could, in the last laps, approach him. 5 laps more, I attack him, but it was too short. Next time I asked to the boss to make races of 50 laps. It's better.
We'd like 50 laps, which would be closer to his age. He's nothing like 73, Kurt Dujardin. Okay, the championship as it stands then. Jean Vasseur leads, second is Xavier van der Meers, third is Gary Ellis, with Wim Moonen, the Dutch driver, fourth in the championship. Then Bertrand Zor and Bruce Andrews, fifth and sixth. Well, when it comes to action, when it comes to activity, and when it comes to exciting racing, there's nothing better than this European late model series. The feature final, magnificent as we expect, in the sunshine. In fact, we've had it all today, and here are the guys that have done the business.